Hello and welcome to the shop. Recently, I've been spending a lot of time making segmented blanks. Here's a few examples of some of the blanks I've been making. And I thought today I would take a little break from making blanks to turn one of this style blank for you. I hope you enjoy the video. This is the very first blank I made of this style, and I'm going to turn it for you today. Now, one thing I want you to know about these blanks, when I made them with a 1/4-inch hole down the center. That is the exact diameter of a mandrel. What that means is you can chase this hole with any size drill bit you want. You could start out with a 7mm, an 8mm, 27/64, whatever diameter bit you need to fit the tube for your kit. Now, these blanks are roughly 2 1/4 inches in length. So once again, any tube, any kit that uses a blank 2 1/4 or less, this blank will work for. My plan today is to mount this to a Monarch pin kit. So I need to chase this hole with a 27/64 bit. And if you think about this blank, how in the world would you grip this in a chuck or a drill vise and be able to align that hole to drill perfectly down the center? It'd be rather difficult. So what I decided to do is, since I have a 1/4-inch hole and a 1/4-inch mandrel, I'm going to mount this blank on the mandrel, and we're going to start by truing it up. Once the blank is trued, it'll be very easy to grip in a chuck and chase that hole. To true this blank, I'm going to be using my T-Shadow Magic Skew that I got from the Speakeasy Pin Emporium and Supply Company. I'm turning at about 2600 RPM. With the blank true, we can now put our chuck on the lathe and drill a perfectly straight hole right down the center of our blank. Before I continue on with drilling the hole down the center of this blank, I just wanted to point out one thing. Notice the bushings on either end. Now, this blank has a 1/4-inch hole down the middle, so it fit extremely snug on the mandrel. I had to kind of work it to get it on the mandrel. I wanted a little more meat on either end of the blank to hold it in place as opposed to a 7mm bushing. So I grabbed some old Sierra bushings and just used those just so it had a little more bite, because the mandrel saver, it will press the bushings together, and that just made sure there was no slippage with the blank. I didn't want slippage. Now, some of you may be saying, well, why didn't you just turn it between centers? I could have very easily put a drive center and a live center in my lathe and turned this, but my concern was, if I'm going to make a 7mm blank out of it, I'm going to do a Sierra style, a Monarch blank. So I need a larger hole. It wouldn't have caused me any issue. But if you were going to make a 7mm pin out of this, using a dead center or a drive center and a live center could actually widen the holes on either end if you had too much pressure to try to keep the blank from slipping. So I opted for the mandrel. But bear in mind, you could very easily use turn between centers to true this blank up. The best way to do this is I grab a 1/4-inch bit, because that's the size of the hole down the center of the blank, and I go ahead and rerun the 1/4-inch hole down the center of the blank. I put it onto a mandrel, true it, then I can grip it in pin jaws or in my vise. I grab a 9/32 bit. I just have a standard drill bit set that has, all the normal sizes in it. So that's why I'm trying to use the stuff that people would have. But I grab a 9/32 bit and I chase that 1/4-inch hole. And then I grab a 3/8 bit, which is the largest bit out of my home set, and chase the 9/32 hole. And finally, I grab my 27/64 and I chase the 3/8 hole. Now, that's a lot of work. This is the best way to do it. Just step up slowly to get that hole perfect down the center of your twist blank. I want to talk about the pin kit that I'll be using. Those of you who have followed me for a while know that my favorite kit is the Elegant Monarch. When I was at Mid-Ohio Valley this year, Nels and Debbie at the Classic Nib debuted their brand new Monarch pin kit. Take a look at the band. In the past, they've had circles or they've had crosses. Now they have a new band style. I really like it. It's very classy. They call it the Joshua Band. Nels and Debbie they debuted these at the show, and they gave me one of each finish for these kits. There are 5 different finishes. You've got gold, you've got gunmetal, you've got chrome, you've got antique brass, and you've got copper. And taking a look at this blank, I honestly think the antique brass really pulls off the blank nicely. So we're going to use the antique brass Elegant Monarch from Classic Nib and mate that with our blank. I love the way this blank is turning out. I only have one issue, and that's right here. I don't know exactly what I did, but I guess I got a little too aggressive. I was trying to be very careful with my cuts, and I've kind of dinged it up a little bit. I think the sandpaper will take some of that out, but other than that, the blank looks really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a single coat of thin CA glue to this blank. That'll help keep these colors from bleeding as I sand, and we'll see if we can't clean this up a little bit. I'm going to be using Mercury Adhesives Thin Flex to put my sanding coat on my blank. Now, I want to thank Jess and Jason Rose for this. They gave me a bottle of thin and a bottle of medium. Jason and Jess are the owners of Speakeasy Pen Emporium and Supply Company, so jump over and check them out. They sell the entire line of Mercury Adhesive products. I slowed the lathe down to about 840 RPMs because I really don't want the CA slinging all over the shop. Just going to put a nice liberal coat on there, and we'll let this spin dry. I'm going to leave the lathe at 840 RPMs for sanding, and with the finish that I have from that skew, normally I would probably start with the 220, but since I have this little chewed up area, we're going to go ahead and start with some 120 grit sandpaper to see if we can't clean that up. And I cannot feel the bushing, so I'm hoping there's enough meat there for me to clean that up, and you'll never even know that little chip was taken from the blank. The sandpaper really gums up whenever you use the glue as a sanding sealer. And I think some of that is because the glue may not have completely soaked into the blank and dried yet. You can kind of see a little smearing, but as it spins and as I sand, it will go ahead and dry, and I don't expect to see much bleed at all when this blank is finished. I am going to swap this out because you can see this piece of paper is pretty well clogged and ruined, and we'll swap it out for another piece of 120, and we'll give this another couple of passes. I'm going to shut the camera off, finish the sanding off camera. I'm going to sand up to 400. I'll come back and show you what it looks like at 400, and we'll go from there. I got the blank sanded to 400, and I cleaned it off with just a little bit of denatured alcohol. I'm really excited about how it looks. I've got a great fit at my bushings on both ends. You can see if you look really close, just the tiniest little chip there. I wasn't able to totally clean that up, but you know what? That looks like a great spot for a clip. I think this is going to be really an amazing looking pen when it's finally assembled. I'm going to follow my usual routine of 5 coats of thin, followed by 3 to 5 coats of medium. There's a little reveal for you after the first coat of thin. I think it looks pretty darn sweet. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off once again. We'll finish up our CA regiment, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like right before we start the micro mesh process. I just finished putting the CA on the blank. I'm ready now to start micro meshing. Wanted to give you a quick look at it. I'm going to go ahead and get the non-stick bushings off, and we'll re-square the ends, put the standard turning bushings back on, and should polish up quite nicely. I want to give you one more quick look at the blank. Now it looks kind of hazy right now, and that's because I just finished micromeshing it, and you can kind of see some of the wax over here. I've got a coat of Renaissance on it, and I'm letting the Renaissance kind of haze up. Once it does haze up, I'm going to put my buffing wheels on the lathe, and we're going to buff this blank. I've set the lathe to 1800 RPMs, and we're going to go ahead and buff out this blank. This will be fun because you'll get a chance to see it really sort of take on the shine. See how it's starting to reflect that light? I like the lathe to be spinning faster, and in this case 1800 RPMs, but I don't want to hold the blank at any one place on the wheel too long because it will build heat and it will melt your CA. I've done that before. It's not a pleasant thing once you've made it to this point. Look at that. I haven't even cleaned it off on the cotton wheel. Just look at that thing shine. That's a gorgeous finish. And I want to point out, if I can find it, right here is the little divot that I took out of the blank. If you remember, you cannot see it. Now I will make sure that that's behind the clip, but it looks amazing. I was able to clean quite a bit of that up. I'm not sure how it happened. It could have been just the grain at the end of the blank pulled loose, because I didn't have any catches or anything that worried me when I was turning. I expected it to look perfect when I shut the lathe off. So not sure what happened there, but we were able to fix it, and I think it's going to be just fine. Wow, this thing is really starting to pop. Look at that. I had to stop and take a look at the footage, and I noticed that it was a bit blurry, so I went ahead and got it into focus and then brought the blank back up for you to see. Just take a look at how amazing that blank looks. Look at the line down the blank. That's the fluorescent light. I have a T8 above my bench, and just look how straight it is. There's no distortion in the line. That is a gorgeously finished blank, and I couldn't be happier. Let's get over to the bench and get this pressed into the kit. We're ready for assembly. I'm going to use a bushing here to protect my blank. We're going to line our clip up, and I'm looking for, I believe that's the little spot right there. Yep, that's perfect. All right, let's open this press up. We'll get our pin in here, and very carefully we'll press this together. All right, let's drop the refill into the front. I'm going to work this transmission a little bit. This is a nice transmission. You can feel the grease in it, and it was a very tight fit. And as I start to work it, you can feel the transmission start to kind of loosen up a little bit, which is what I want. Oh wow, I like that kit with the yellow heart. That was a real nice accent. Let's get this a little closer where you can see it. Isn't that beautiful? And this kit, I'm going to show you the information about it. This was the Elegant Monarch Joshua gun polish and antique brass. And I think it just goes so well with this yellow heart. Isn't that beautiful? I'd like to say thank you to everybody out there for sticking with me and watching this video. Hopefully you watched the whole thing. I hope you like this pen. I believe this one is going to go to my son. He had requested a pen and picked a blank, and while I was working to learn how to drill these blanks properly, I actually blew the blank up. So I couldn't be happier with how this blank turned out, or this pen turned out. Thank you very much for following along and watching. I truly appreciate it. Have a great day, and remember, you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening.